They make them, we cover them, you sell them. Welcome to OEM Update, where we talk about everything you need to know about this year's vehicle model lines. My name is Megan Cusack, editor of Motorcycle and Powersports News, and today we're going to be talking about the 2026 Beta Alp models. Now, Beta classifies the Alp as a mini adventure bike, and it boasts a base MSRP of $6,490. So, let's dive deeper into what exactly this bike has to offer. But for that, we're going to go straight to the OEM source. Joining me today to give us an overview of the 2026 Alp line is Tim Pilg, president of Beta USA. Tim, thank you so much for hopping on to speak with us today.
Yes, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Of course. All right, so first things first, I know Beta has pegged the Alp as a mini adventure model. So what exactly does that mean? What is mini and what type of rider is going to look for a mini adventure bike?
Well, the term mini adventure is generally the overall size of the motorcycle. There's a lot of intimidating adventure bikes out there. They're large, they're heavy. They're basically large street bikes with long travel suspension. This bike we call a mini adventure line because basically not so much the size of the motor as much as the physical size and weight of the motorcycle. It's less intimidating. It weighs much less than some of the other smaller adventure bikes. So it's more a little bit less intimidating, runs with our tagline rideability, so it's a much less intimidating motorcycle for adventure use anyway.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. Just even having walked around AIM Expo a couple of months ago and seeing all the different adventure bikes on display, a lot of those are kind of behemoths. So I think a mini version would definitely be welcomed in the market.
For sure, that's our goal.
All right. So now the Alp has been sold in Europe for over 25 years now, but it is just making it to the US now. So how has it done over there, and what prompted the decision to bring it to the US after all this time?
Well, you're right. It's been over there for more than 25 years now in different forms and different engine configurations. The reason we didn't sell it in the US is because it had Suzuki's DR350 engine in it. And we had an agreement with US Suzuki for many years not to sell it in the USA. So that was the main reason why it never sold in the USA. Today, however, it has a different engine power plant. So we're able to, with the new model, market it in the USA. That was the reason for it.
Okay, nice. Well, that kind of leads us right here into my next question here. So, can you break down some of the main selling points of both the Alp 4.0 and the Alp X, and what differentiates those bikes?
Sure. Basically, we wanted two versions. One is the Alp X is more of a urban adventure bike. It has 17, 19-inch wheels, 17 in the rear, 19 up front, semi-aggressive, maybe a 80-20 knobby, so 20%, or I'd say 30% off-road, 70% on-road. Has a little bit different styling. Both models share the same chassis and engine configuration. You can just see by the styling, the Alp 4.0 is a little bit more off-road oriented, has your normal 18-inch rear, 21-inch front. It has different styling, a little bit different bodywork, geared a little bit more towards off-road. The tires on it are more of the opposite, 80-20, 80% off-road, 20% on-road. But as far as the overall feel, the Alp has a little bit more ground clearance, less than a half an inch taller seat height. So basically, overall, the two bikes are very similar in design, just set up a little bit different for different uses.
Very cool. And then, I know you were speaking about the different engine earlier. Can you break down some of the technical specifications and maybe go a little bit more into, this new engine for us?
You bet. So this engine is a configuration. The bike is built in Italy at our factory in Florence, Italy. It uses an engine that our engineers worked with at Zontas in China. It's a 6-speed, liquid-cooled, 4-valve head, electric start, of course. Super durable engine. It's been around for several years. our engineers worked a little bit different on the gearing ratios and some other things inside to make it unique for the Alp. But the bike is manufactured in Italy at our plant. And ultimately, the goal is to create to get the same feeling in the U.S. market, where it's almost like it has a great icon name in Europe. The Alp name has run for a long time in Europe, and as mentioned earlier, and we want to continue that here in the U.S. Lower seat height, less intimidating, like as I mentioned, and the engine overall is just I call it a workhorse because it's a very robust built engine. I've being a mechanic myself, I've been inside the motor. Simple to service, easy to work on, has a lot of nice little features on it that ultimately the clutch is bulletproof on it. We put the clutch through a lot of testing and along with the other features that we'll get into, I'm sure. But ultimately, that's the collaboration between the two companies. It really it was a perfect fit for us to keep the price point where we wanted to keep it.
So, speaking of getting in there and working on the engine, which obviously that is all new, but in creating the new 2026 Alp, were there any service issues from the previous European models that you might have worked through to fix for in these new iterations?
Really nothing. The bikes were pretty bulletproof because they were unchanged for a number amount of years with that Suzuki engine in them. That's kind of the same thing we're going to do with this one, is to make small refinements throughout the years. We really didn't have any trouble with the old models at all. They were super durable. They have a really good reputation of just being that workhorse motorcycle, that just basically the idea is to create a product that the person would keep for several years, enjoy the bike, put lots of miles on it. We give them a 2-year unlimited mileage warranty, and then turn around and buy a new one in a few years because repeat buyers. That's where the Alp has really shined in Europe. And we're hoping to do the same here in the US market.
Okay. Well, and there's another good segue there. So now that the Alp is moving to the US market, how do you guys plan to, spread the word and help dealers, move these units? Because I would say over here, Beta is probably not known for having an adventure model. So this is kind of new territory on the US side.
It sure is. It is new for us here. And we ultimately are doing several things with an advertising campaign through press and media. We're sending a lot of bikes out to the press right now. There's several tests that are just starting to come through because we want to get good feedback from the editors and find out, what they think of the motorcycle. That's real important. So we generally we rely on the press to give us feedback initially so that we can kind of steer different directions with the product. The goal really is we're going to have a television commercial during the outdoor motocross series, which is going to really reach out to a lot of moto enthusiasts. As far as our dealers are concerned, we're bringing them out here to California to our headquarters, and we're training them on the features of the bike, the overall engine, one of our technical classes doing, engine service and what have you. And that's kind of, it's very important that our dealers are engaged in the product and understand what the goal. Beta is very famous for one thing that we are, especially in Europe, is we build motorcycles for a certain type of segment and even a certain type of rider. And when you see that with our cross trainer model, entry level enduro versus our 300X Pro versus our 300 race, we have 3 different lines. And the idea of that is so that there's 3 different customers that we're selling to. So with the Alp, we want to make sure that the customer, similar to the cross trainer, it's wide open. It can be sold as a great bike to throw on the back of an RV. It can be sold as a bike that for a young person that wants to get into adventure riding. Like I said, lower seat height, less intimidating. It's just a very user-friendly motorcycle, And ultimately, we want to carry that from Europe into the U.S. market. That theme of usage, so to speak.
Right, right. Absolutely. All right. And so, final question here for you. As with all adventure bikes, accessories are kind of a big deal. So, what have been some of the most popular accessories for the Alp over in Europe that we'll probably expect to, carry over to here?
That's a good question. We have a lot of accessories for our RS dual sport range, and we want to continue that with the Alp model. We already have more than 15, 20 accessories ready today, even before the bike's released, such as we have soft luggage side bags with hard frames, steel frames support. We have a rear rack option with a top luggage, soft luggage bag on top. We have crash bars for the side to protect the motor and the body work on the side. We're developing a radiator guard, an oil cooler guard. The motor is oil cooled, so we're developing those products. A windscreen, heated grips, and then obviously there's a lot of other different accessories available throughout the market. But as far as Beta branded accessories, we're hoping to have at least 50 accessories by the time the bike's launched in June.
Excellent. Well, it has been a pleasure speaking with you, Tim, and thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with us about the 2026 ALP models.
You bet. Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate the Beta love.
For more information about the ALP line or to become a Beta dealer, head to betausa.com. And as always, stay tuned to MPM for more of the latest and greatest in motorcycle and powersports news.